for C9. They keep Ray in for this decisive third game. They switch sides of the map back. I'm very curious to see if TSM keeps the same priority on Jhin, because the Tristana was something that actually DoubleLift tunneled on last week when TSM was still on that win streak, the 11-game win streak, which, by the way, was broken this last game by Cloud9. So the Jhin was probably a denial pick, I feel like, when DoubleLift picked it. Wouldn't be too surprised to see him go back over to a Trist this game, unless they leave Caitlyn up, because it's still not banned and TSM's got one left.
All right, taking a look at these bans so far. You got 4 of the same ones we've seen in the previous 2 games. LeBlanc, Galio, Kin, and Zach all banned away. Cloud9 adapting, banning away the Corki. Not wanting to play against that one again this game. TSM has 1 more ban to go. We'll have to see what exactly they want to take off the table. Time runs out as Syndra is banned out.
So there's a bit of a mind game going on there. I think Caitlyn is almost the guaranteed first pick here, but if that happens, TSM might just pick Ori right away in the same spot that C9 did. So now C9 has to make the choice of, do they put Sneaky on Caitlyn as their carry option or Jensen on Orianna as their carry option? I think that's the choice that they're being pushed into by TSM here.
Well, remember that Caitlyn has been banned away the previous 2 games. Has not been allowed to happen in this series just yet, so Cloud9 will go through, pick that one up for themselves. Yeah,
and I think if TSM doesn't pick Ori here, C9 pick it right away. So they either need to have a pick ready for it, and since they already banned away the Syndra, I think that is less likely.
Cloud9 is not bashful at all about locking in the Ori early for themselves in the previous game, locking it in first, I believe. So TSM going to show that they're not really afraid of doing the same thing. They picked that one up before anything else.
Orianna, oftentimes the signature champion of the best mid laners. No surprise that Jensen and Bjergsen both very good at it. And that's become an incredibly potent pick in this series.
I was going to say, honestly, this pick has helped define both wins so far. It's been super critical to the success of either one of these teams. And now with Corki banned away, the answer that TSM had to it is not available for Cloud9.
Yeah, and TSM then go with Jhin instead of power picking a support. Because something that they were denied last game was pretty much the choice of any of the frontline supports, Thresh, Braum, or Tahm Kench. There's no way C9 can deny all of those here, but they kind of show their whole hand now. That's all of their lanes basically decided outside of jungle and support, because I do not think Contractz will play jungle rumble. So very much a pushing strat for C9, shown very early. So TSM now needs to pick engage and wave clear. So they already kind of know what Cloud9 does, which shows a lot of confidence in C9 in their style, but I also think is incredibly risky to show this early.
Absolutely. TSM going to go ahead, not decide to do the same thing on their side. They're still going to leave that top laner open for the pick, open for guessing from Cloud9. They know they're up against Rumble. They lock in the Thresh for themselves. Biofrost, we know what a playmaker he can be on this champion. We've seen it banned against him before.
Yeah, I really am not a fan of this draft from Reaper, because now TSM can block out the Tahm Kench and the Braum to take pretty much any hope of a solid front line for this multiple carry backline, and it allows TSM to build up a lot of dive and engage if they want to. I don't think Cloud9 has enough bans left to stop TSM from being able to pick wave clear and engage champions.
Well, they're going to start by banning away the Kled. They know that the charge can be a big engage tool to help the entire team get in there. They also know that Hauntzer has played it in both games so far, so they want to remove that from the pool of possibility.
Yeah, I was expecting the Tahm Kench to come through as a second ban, so that's also something TSM can't pick that early, so I think that'll end up being the support from Smoothie. They instead get rid of Gragas since Contractz succeeded with it last game in the jungle.
0-0 and 12 last game for Contractz, by the way. When they won, he had no kills, no deaths, 12 assists, the perfect support score. Didn't need to be the carry for his team, was just able to facilitate properly, at least the final ban from Cloud9. They'll be keeping Sven off that one, but remember, Lee is up.
Yeah, so you will pick it then? Because I think that's kind of the choice here. Unless TSM really want to practice things that aren't Lee Sin. It's very straightforward, though, with all the other junglers being taken away. What even doing hovering the Nidalee unless they feel like it's a denial pick for C9's poke composition?
I mean, all 3 of those targets that have been locked in by C9 so far are great targets for a kick. You knock any one of those guys into the team, they're going to be in trouble.
C9 is going to have to play this game so well to win. They have to have a bunch of turret pressure. They have to be incredibly elusive from TSM's initiation, since everyone TSM has picked now has a chance to catch out C9.
I'm wondering if they're actually going...
Yeah.
Okay!
They're all in on this strategy. It's a siege strategy with backline carries, and Nunu, if you are going to pick a champion who can be the one-man catch-all protection, it is actually Nunu. I've talked with Kobe and a bunch of the other junglers in the office about this. This guy is actually pretty oppressive right now in the way he has played in this game. You can still go Locket, Knight's Vow, really be a true support while doing all these other things. So if there is a pick that can pull this composition together, it is the Nunu.
Also locking in the Bard for Smoothie. We know Bard is a huge playmaker. You can see some awesome stuff come out of him, but at the same time, if Bard fails, he fails with flying colors. Nick is going to have to show up pretty big for these guys.
He really does. TSM hovers the Jarvan, which I think would be the perfect pick in this situation. It can also lock down the Rumble in the top lane. This just seems like such a powerhouse team composition by TSM that C9 must need to be so careful with the way they push and shove these lanes, because if TSM kind of ever get ahead, I feel like they'll be able to throw themselves at C9 over and over and just kill the multiple squishy members on the C9 team.
I mean, they've got the Ori Jarvan combo, right?
Yeah.
One delivers the ball, the other sets up the hoop, and it just creates this team fight that is so huge of a threat. There's no way that you can't respect it. And Cloud9 doesn't have the tools to not respect something. I mean, your tanky guy's a Nunu. That's it. Everybody else melts.
Yeah, the way C9, I feel like, needs to play this game now. Jensen pushes mid. It's a good matchup against Orianna. The Caitlyn can push in the early game. The Rumble can shove the Jarvan in the early game. And then Nunu invades Svenskeren and stop his ability to get into the counter jungle. So the flaw for TSM's composition, so to speak, could be the early laning phase. That's where C9 has to pounce.
Historically, not the best part of the game for Cloud9, though. This isn't a team that always shined through its early game. In fact, it was a team that commonly had problems in the early game. So they're setting themselves up with a very difficult situation, a tough hill to climb if they want to find victory in this final deciding game. This is the one for all the marbles. Previous games were cool. They were a lot of fun. I got excited watching them.
Yeah.
But this is the one that the teams are really concerned about. This is the one that decides who gets to keep that win streak going and who's going to have the brakes pumped on them.
Yeah, this series has been great. There have been very close games that are then swiftly decided by pretty much the late game decision making and team fighting, but this is a game that may not hinge on those moments. This could be a game that is decided in the laning phase.
The crowd's hyped up, I'm hyped up, the team's got to be ready. They're out onto the Rift for the third and final time in this series to see who's going to walk away victorious. Fanning out at the start, the TSM chants begin, and both teams will be taking their defensive positions. It's a crowd war. It's a cheering contest back and forth. You can hear Cloud9's in a sea of TSMs as both sides really want to channel all their energy to the boys on stage, have them walk away with the win here today, get one step closer to being that #1 team in North America.
I do feel like the fans were baited a little bit trying to compete with a 3-syllable chant with a 2-syllable chant. It is almost never effective. That's why we went over at Worlds last year. The way to cheer for Cloud9 was "Let's go C9." No, that's not it. I already forgot it. Why am I forgetting my own chant?
Wait, did you come up with it?
Let's go Cloud9, clap, 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 clap. That's the one.
Okay, so let's go Cloud9, clap, 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 clap. That's how you compete with a 3-syllable chant.
Yeah, because if you're doing a C9, you're either having the long break because you're kind of thinking about a 4-syllable measure. So it's like TSM breath, TSM breath.
Right.
But if you're C9, you either take 2 breaths off or you never get a chance to get a breath. So you can't compete with the TSM chant. I've done far too much thinking about this.
I'm glad
topic.
you're a master of chant mechanics, because I didn't know any of this. I just always thought that whoever's the loudest wins the game.
That can't happen unless you run out of breath. You can't just shout forever.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, I guess you could do it in waves. Have half the crowd do the first C9, have the second half of the crowd, but then you lose your loudness because you're only working with half your dudes. All these problems that they'll have to overcome, but Cloud9 themselves have plenty of problems to overcome in this final game, going up against TSM. Now remember, Sneaky in both previous games has lost out in terms of farm early on against DoubleLift, but when you're on Caitlyn, losing out in farm isn't really something that's in your itinerary. Yeah,
this champion is banned away for a reason. People have really figured out the way to abuse the laning phase as much as possible, the correct trap placements in the mid game, and then the ultimate late game power with the Static Shiv Rapid Fire Cannon Infinity Edge build, which makes your traps pretty much impossible to step on and creates huge zoning prowess. So you can understand why it was first picked here. And then because of that, C9 do not want to have to go for a team fighting composition against the Orianna, which was locked in by TSM so early, and then go all in on the early laning phase.
Cloud9 fans respond in force. After game number 2, TSM fans equalize it. Cloud9 says, oh, no. They come back 56% to 44%. Think Cloud9 is walking away with the win in this series after that powerful comeback in game number 2. I really want to keep an eye on Contractz this game too. Nunu needs to be able to get in the enemy jungler's face early.
And he actually hasn't so far. I wonder if this delayed invade is going for Svenskeren's blue buff. If he really wanted to, he could flash consume smite, or just consume smite. He's gonna get it.
Walks up, takes it right in his face. That's what Nunu does.
Oh, and it's successful as well, because there's no way Svenskeren has the defense of his own team right there. That's exactly what you want to do on Nunu, and he might go back for more.
Oh man, this is what Nunu's made of. Flash that wall and eat that Gromp.
Smack him.
You can do it. Oh.
Either way, Svenskeren still has to recall at level 3, means the gank threat is gone, which means C9 can continue to play aggressive in these lanes. They have to maintain this tempo for a very long time, and they cannot let Svenskeren get ganks off.
They want to go on a magical journey coming in from behind these guys, and they're going to do it. Seeing if Bard can find the binding into the wall. Instead, only gets it onto a minion. Contractz making his way down the lane, though, buys a lot of extra damage. The snowball for first blood.
Why stop to hook if you were Biofrost? There are 3 people hitting you and you have no backup there. The heal gets burned, the flash gets burned, and Contractz gets first blood.
Good job from Cloud9. That's what we wanted to see from the Nunu. That's how this team has to work. And oh my goodness, Jatt. We talked about how Drakes don't usually get taken very early. How about 4 minutes in?
If you're a Nunu,
anything's possible.
Yeah, that's a 4-minute, 20-second Drake, and it's Ocean too, so this empowers their laning phase even more. The earlier Ocean Drake is taken, in my opinion, the better it becomes, because you immediately trigger that regen in the laning phase. Magical Journey, they know Lee Sin is back. The wave is in a good spot. They just kind of brute force their way through here. Biofrost could have just flashed right here, but he goes for a hook. Allows the snowball to be recast on him. Boom! That'll get you.
The worst part is that projectile is so damn slow that you just have to watch it coming after you for a second before you're like, well, I guess I'm dead. It's like a mini version of a Karth assault.
That's a stretch, but I agree with you then.
I'm talking about the feeling, the thinking feeling you get watching it, not how strong it is.
Yep, agreed.
All right, fair enough. Hauntzer farming up here in the top lane, stuck under his turret right now by Ray, but Hauntzer's the one who's actually in charge in terms of farm. Remember that these two are going to have very different roles as the game goes on. Hauntzer, a big initiator, a burster. Ray going to be the one just bringing massive AoE teamfight damage to this mid game as Biofrost makes a rotation mid lane, but oh, look who's strolling in. The Nunu, once again, just stopping these guys.
Sometimes that's all it takes. He's got the level advantage on Svenskeren. And he also has his Bomby Cinder right now, which does help him take Raptors a little bit, but they need to be able to continually go in and track Svenskeren's Lee Sin. If they can get a combo, maybe even top lane, if Jarvan can get ahead or something, that's where TSM comes back. But this is the critical juncture in the game. C9, keep the pressure up in all lanes to try and snowball this game.
Hauntzer taken very, very low by Ray, who does have his equalizer available. Don't know if he really wants to go for anything too crazy here. Just going to back himself off, allow Hauntzer to farm that wave underneath the turret. Hauntzer does now have the Cataclysm available to be up for both tops, meaning that if plays are sought after elsewhere on the map, they can join the fight. Ray's not going to go after that, though. Just working his way back to lane.
Yeah, I mean, he was thinking about either finding Svenskeren in the jungle or ganking mid lane because he had such a shove advantage. C9 really have to find places to grow their advantage.
And that Ocean Drake that you mentioned, having that from 4 minutes into the game, really going to give a lot more laning power to these guys. Svenskeren trying to back, but Contractz shows up in time to not allow that to happen. Shockwave flashed away from, Jensen evading that one. Keep in mind, Contractz has his ulti, Svenskeren does not. Nunu ulti is an amazing zone control mechanism to force your opponents to move in ways that they would not otherwise want to do.
Yeah, and I'm wondering when they're going to go. There's no shockwave on Bjergsen.
Going in, the calling coming out. Smoothie trying to rotate in, and Jensen grabs himself a kill.
And even though Smoothie was there, that was unassisted solo kill there by Adoring Shield Lucian onto Bjergsen's Orianna. So making it count.
Uh-oh.
Contractz.
Contractz might be in some trouble. Svenskeren gonna be slowed down. The absolute zero channel. Contractz trying to get himself away. Not gonna be killed just yet. Smoothie going on a magical journey the wrong way. The equalizer comes down.
Where are you gonna
Ray
run?
wants to go after him. Flash into the flame spitter, and Cloud9 is 3-0.
Making the plays right now. 1,000 gold at 7 minutes. And can they set up turret pressure on top of it? Getting that kill on a Svenskeren adds insult to injury. It means he can almost never fight Contractz as Nunu at this point.
Hauntzer having to walk himself back up to top lane, not making anything happen there. Let's watch Jensen solo kill again.
Yeah, Bjergsen has no shockwave, does have flash. He'll get the early ignite in, meaning the heal is less effective. And then every tick of the culling.
Even through that minion wave, and then this.
All the CC is down. Hauntzer hit him with the EQ. Svenskeren's not level 6 yet. And then he just walks over, casually consumes a minion after his flash. And a very good equalizer there by Ray, trapping Svenskeren against the turret and then flashing for the kill.
Yeah, Svenskeren had no choice. Either stand there and wait for Ray to flash in and flame spitter him, or just suicide onto the equalizer. When you're in that kind of a spot, you've at least got to make the other guy burn his summoner spell for it. But Contractz is Nunu, and honestly, Cloud9 as a whole, you said it, Jatt. They had to get off to a good early game if they wanted to beat this superior-looking team comp from TSM, and so far, they're doing it with style.
Yeah, and also one thing we should point out is there is a mastery mistake from Ray. He has Fervor of Battle on Rumble, which can contribute to losing that lane. Yes, he got that solo kill, but oftentimes you're going to go Deathfire Touch on that Rumble because it's much more effective.
Right.
Misclick on his masteries if he was redoing them right there does hurt his lane phase substantially.
Yeah, not having Deathfire Touch on that, and even as the game goes on, that's going to be a big chunk of damage he would otherwise have. Very, very unfortunate for that. I'm going to keep an eye on that as this game goes on. If anybody barely walks away from a Rumble ulti or a Flame Spitter, the Deathfire Touch not being there could explain that difference. Sneaky, just bullying DoubleLift around.
Now, DoubleLift keeping his CS up, but if the turret falls, it's actually all for naught because you get so much extra gold from that early game burst. It really is about withstanding the assault from TSM right now and not falling prey to too many Bard roams or Jensen solo kills.
And we know how effective Caitlyn is, not only at winning the laning phase, but once she gets out of it, once she takes down that enemy turret and starts rotating to other lanes, it's so hard to defend against her push. She sets up the trap line, sieges up outside of it, and can quickly collect all 3 tier 1s.
Yeah, and they're trying to control this blue buff away from Bjergsen as well. Bjergsen's wave clear will not be nearly as potent if they can keep the blue buff on either Jensen or Contractz. They're going to secure this bottom lane turret. Early roam from the Nunu and the Lucian allows Sneaky to get solo turret gold, plus 650.
Here comes that hungry, hungry Nunu looking to steal everything away again. He's so hard to kill, too. The health that he has, considering the champion has one of, if not the highest base health in the game, along with the fact that you rush the Cinderhulk and just build pure tank, he's so difficult to kill as Ray goes in for the solo kill onto Hauntzer here. Electro Harpoons connecting, Flame Spitter coming out, flag and drag away. Hauntzer will not be forced to burn a summoner spell just yet. Contractz still chasing after Biofrost. He's maxing Consumer here, so the snowballs aren't super effective. Deadly Flourish coming out. Contractz going to be in some trouble. Shot to come out. Only finding their way onto Sneaky right now. Contractz will be just fine. That 4th shot not really doing a whole lot. Not enough damage on the Jhin.
Yeah, but mission mostly accomplished. They got the blue away from TSM and did burn that curtain call so they can kind of keep the pressure up. Mountain Drake is very important, though, for being able to snowball down those turrets.
TSM looking at it right now. They got Sven on it. They got Biofrost on it. They're not going to be doing it super quickly, though. Over the wall goes a ward from Cloud9, I believe, as Contractz strolls up. And as soon as you see that gosh darn Nunu, you know that he's going to flash forward and go for the
Start
spike
thinking
soon.
about it, but he's all alone, so they can get a lot of damage off onto him.
Absolute zero channel enough to scare these guys away. Contractz backing out, doesn't want to be tanking the auto attacks from the Mountain Drake. He'll take a bite out of Scuttle Crab just to heal himself up a little bit. Still in decent shape for now. TSM has multiple bodies nearby. They will not give this Drake away for free. They weren't expecting the first one to be taken so quickly. It's on their minds now. Contractz Smite now available. And one thing I want to point out is that Contractz has Bonds of Stone.
Yes, that is the correct mastery for Nunu.
Yeah, that's going to make it so he's able to provide a lot of healing a lot of
Exactly. Bond of Stone will trigger every time you land a CC on a target. The snowball or just his ultimate is going to allow people to heal very generously over time on it. I think this mastery is actually very aggressively tuned. Even in the mid game, you're going to heal more off of Bond of Stone sometimes than you are off your Blade of the Ruin King if you have the Nunu E on a target and he's stacked up a lot of health.
Ray might be in a little bit of trouble here. Hauntzer with the Flag and Dragon, the Cataclysm, Equalizer comes down, Svenskeren wanting to get involved. Ray turning the damage, fight back around onto Hauntzer, who honestly comes out in that trade worse for wear than Ray does. He doesn't lose his flash though.
Nunu.
But Contractz coming in, over the wall, looking to drop those snowballs. Flash over the wall, Hauntzer staying alive for now. Svenskeren dashing away, Contractz still wants to go for it if he can. Jensen looking to make yet another solo kill onto Bjergsen here. Shockwave out to cancel the culling. Sneaky and Smoothie looking to make that 2v2 happen. A very nice binding comes down. Contractz stopping Hauntzer's back. Flame spitter damage coming out. Ray gonna be tanking the turret for now. Absolute Zero gets channeled. Ray gets taken down. Contractz grabbing the kill onto his opponent now. The junglers both still alive. Svenskeren has the burst potential of Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike, but that Nunu is so fat and tanky. It's very, very hard to bring him down.
Yeah, and the pressure is relentless right here. Any kill TSM can trade back, though, is what they want if they move towards a teamfight phase. But when Contractz is actually getting these kills, it's actually making it possible for him to be the one-man teamfight frontline that can stuff the engages of TSM in the late game. So actually not that bad for him to be getting these kills early. We're going to watch this one more time. They traded so well early on, the Contractz just kind of walks up and doesn't allow Hauntzer to recall. He tanks the turret. It allows an easy Ray to kind of walk up, but they don't quite execute. The W gets through, and then the turret actually traded back to Ray. Contractz dropped the aggro a little bit early, so a misplay on the turret dive that gives a kill back.
Kindle Gem now built by Contractz. Going to be likely seeing some more of those support items. Do you think we would see an Ardent Sensor on him this game that synergizes with the Bonds of Stone since he has 280 carries? That's something that I've heard of people doing on Nunu.
To get the Ardent Sensor once the Bond of Stone heal triggers, and therefore that counts for Ardent Sensor. I have to double check that interaction is the case. I think the Kindle
It is the case. I actually, because I heard about people doing this on Nunu, and I was like, does that actually work? And it does work that way. So I'm curious if we're going to see that kind of a focus from him. But now he's the one being cut out a little bit here. Flashing away, trying to get himself into a decent spot. Going to be knocked airborne, looking to go over the wall, but Shockwave shuts him down. TSM finally punishing that Nunu as Hauntzer looks to go in on Jensen.
Yeah, and now they have no front damage. That's why Jensen's trying to poke him out, but he gets hooked.
Oh no, Jensen caught out. This is going to be disastrous for Cloud9. TSM find themselves two nice picks, and they'll take the Earthquake as the prize.
Yeah, when TSM can group up and not have their turrets instantly die, they're going to take that in a heartbeat. So they get some very critical kills. They're also denied the Mountain Drake while Ray pushes that top side. Did have teleport, did not use it to come down.
Ray deciding that he's just going to be going for the second turret of the game instead. Does secure that one for his team. It's still almost a 2,000 gold lead for Cloud9, but they can't show these signs of slippage this early in the game. They've got to maintain control.
Yeah, so many CCs chained onto Contractz. Sneaky was down bottom lane, Ray was top lane, did not have a good spot to teleport in, so they just shockwave him to death. And then Jensen doesn't want to give up Mountain Drake because it's such a core part of their win condition, being able to snowball down these early turrets. Blade of the Ruin King move speed, but he traps himself up against the wall, which doesn't leave him room to juke. Hook lands, Jhin combos with the CC, and TSM pick up their second kill of the fight.
Infinity Edge is now done for both marksmen. Means that they are going to have plenty of power with those crits in these team fights. Meanwhile, mid lane, that Blade of the Ruin King that you mentioned on the Lucian was done. Namacon also completed for Bjergsen, meaning he can shut down some of that healing. It would be coming out from enemy AD carries or from Contractz as Biofrost goes in, looking to catch Jensen out. Oh, a max range flourish. They find him again.
Did not look like that skill shot was going to land, but it does get the root. And that's the type of window that TSM need to make plays. We talked about all the initiation they have and how careful C9 have to play because they can't make many, if any, mistakes in that laning phase to allow TSM back into this one.
Cloud9, what once looked like a really promising game with few mistakes, has now had multiple errors. TSM trying to stop them from taking that Rift Herald. They don't want to allow that to go all the way. Bjergsen in a little bit of danger here mid lane. Ignited but not taken down. Smoothie expending both summoner spells, trying to make that one happen. So having those off the board, going to be very useful for TSM. Sneaky though, having taken down the enemy tier 1 bottom lane, has rotated himself mid. And this is where Caitlyn starts to become truly obnoxious. Contractz still trying to take that Rift Herald, wants to keep Hauntzer away.
And TSM want to delay this. Bjergsen's got about 10 seconds on his shockwave. I don't think they can actually prevent the Rift Herald. Svenskeren? Nope. I'm not going to steal from Nunu.
No, you just can't do it. And Contractz has these smite consumes perfectly timed. You never see that. A lot of times on Nunu, you'll see a split second where the health bar shows where the smite and consume are different, and it drops and then it drops again. Every single time, Contractz is just one instant burst of massive amounts of damage. Now moving back into his own jungle, farming up just a little bit, getting closer to more and more of those support items. Looks like he may be, not sure exactly what he's going for there.
Yeah.
Kindle Gym plus Ruby.
A couple things you can go for with that as they're potentially getting picks. You can go Warmog second on Nunu.
Yeah.
You'll hit the health threshold and regen it, and that'll also synergize very well with Block It later. He still has components for a Spear Visage if he wants to pick up the Magic Resist, turn that into a Spectre's Count, and combine it with the Kindle Gem. Or he's just building components because Knight's Vow is a great item and he could build a Kindle Gem out of that. So a lot of different options Contractz still has with those components.
C9, they used the Rift Herald mid. All it pretty much got to do is headbutt the turret once, but it takes it so incredibly low. And with the Shockwave, Cloud9 feels pretty comfortable pushing up, taking down this tier 1, looking to make a further play on the back of it. Biofrost going to be brought low. The damage doesn't quite come out though. Curtain Call going to be opened up. Contractz needs to block these shots. Smoothie going to be taken almost down, but Sven goes first. Another kill coming out. Ray's able to grab the one onto Biofrost. Bjergsen in the back line looking to run away. DoubleLift goes down to Jensen as 3 fall for TSM, 2 down for Cloud9.
And that equalizer was awesome by Ray. He put it right on top of DoubleLift while he was during the curtain call. But C9 really saw the kill, and it looked like they became enraged trying to finish off TSM when it's not. The purpose of this team comp is not to kill TSM, it's to kill TSM's turrets. So they could have probably won this fight and taken turrets if they had not dove so aggressively. Watch that equalizer right on Bjergsen and DoubleLift, trapping them against this. And here, after Biofrost is killed, they can stop. But Sneaky flashes forward, ends up trading his life for DoubleLift as he lands the 4th shot and Hauntzer finishes it off. It is a 3-for-2, which is a net win, but it's not that much of a win, and TSM will continue to scale up. It is the Warmogs for Contractz.
Yep, Cloud9 still up 2,500 gold, but as you mentioned a few times already, it's that team comp for TSM, it's that scaling, it's how well these 5 champions work in tandem that Cloud9 has got to be scared of, because the stronger TSM get, the closer Cloud9 get to being in that spot where one little misposition will cost you the game.
Yeah, and I want to spend a quick second, if we have, to talk about the Warmogs on Contractz. It actually has an inbuilt synergy since Nunu gets bonus health from having 5 consume stacks in the jungle. So even though he's just level 12 with 2 items, he has nearly 3,500 health. So if the rest of his build is Locket of the Iron Solari, which now scales off of bonus health, just the base shield there is going to be around 850. And then if he builds a Gargoyle Stoneplate, which is what you want when you stack up that much health, and you use Gargoyle Stoneplate into Locket, it's about a 2,500 health shield if you use them in the right order, which would be enough to protect the entire backline from a shockwave.
Now he's going to be bursted down pretty rapidly. Biofrost trying to help out, but he's going to be caught up in the ultimate from Smoothie, and now TSM going to be taken very low. Sneaky grabbing the kill onto DoubleLift. From the side comes Ray. Biofrost going to be melting down next. Svenskeren in some trouble, but still keeps himself alive for now. Hauntzer going to be tanking 4, but drops. A shockwave finds its way onto 3, but Smoothie's still going to be kept alive. A double for Bjerg. Contractz still trying to chase him down. Find this extra kill on the back end of it. Jensen wants to come forward. The auto attacks come out. The piercing light will not quite find the ace, but TSM has lost 4 for 2.
These fights are so close in this game. 4 for 2. Now they should be able to take the turret afterwards. Look at Contractz' health with that Warmogs, by the way. It will just go to full in a few seconds, and that allows them to keep the pressure on.
Oh, that build is so dirty.
So troll.
He comes right back.
If you were winning fights, it is the best feeling in the world, because now you never have to recall.
Ever.
You can just continue to keep the pressure on the map.
Especially if you get this blue buff. Ooh!
Oh, he consumed early. He didn't wait for the consume. Smite consumed. Svenskeren knew there was the cooldown, then Svenskeren could use the execute. But watching this fight one more time, 3,500 health that has to be burned through on Contractz here. They don't get it thanks to that ultimate from Smoothie's Bard. Ray's teleport then unleashes the equalizer onto TSM. They can finish off DoubleLift very quickly, and then TSM actually turns around a fair bit. Bjergsen finishes off Ray, and then Hauntzer Cataclysms. He wanted this to be with the Shockwave, but it takes so long for the Orianna ball to get there, and then Jensen can back away just enough from the Shockwave, plus they don't quite get Smoothie down with that. Contractz then is frontlining, he slows him down, Jensen can dash in, pick up the next kill.
Absolutely frightening from Cloud9. As now TSM pushing down the mid lane, Svenskeren able to find the catch onto Jensen yet again. The third time this game he's been picked by TSM.
Point, counterpoint, TSM doing just enough to keep this game interesting and prevent C9 from snowballing absolutely through them. Drake up yet again. Ocean Drake pretty important for being able to stick around after a Caitlyn ultimate or headshot gets landed on you. Baron also an issue though in this game with the double marksman as well as the Nunu can be forced down very quickly. The up-tempo pace will continue.
And honestly, the times where Jensen is getting caught out this game, allowing TSM the opportunity to contest these neutral objectives, you don't expect a game to have a super close contest in Drake when one side has a Nunu. That's what Nunu is really adept at controlling.
Exactly, and then when you add to it that you have the Lucian who solo killed the Orianna, the Caitlyn in the bottom lane, the Rumble who shoves in the top lane, there shouldn't actually be many windows for TSM to move down and take the early Drake. So just the one mountain in the double ocean I think is acceptable for C9, but they could have wanted more.
And I really just want to applaud Contractz again. Game number 1, we talked about how despite the C9 loss, he was the one who stepped up, went mano-a-mano with the Lee Sen of Svenskeren, and honestly outplayed it, despite the fact that his team lost. Game number 2, even though they were down for a while, at the end of the day, it was TSM's Nexus that blew up, and Contractz was 0-0 and 12, really being that facilitator for his team. And now he's huge again, 2-1 and 8 on this Nunu, but not big enough to save Jensen.
Oh my God, Svenskeren! Getting to watch that one more time, landing the Q onto Contractz' Nunu. War jump flash, I mean, you can only give so much respect to Lee Sin before you just gotta applaud him for that fight, because you can't say Jensen should have seen that coming. He was 800 units away from the guy who got hit by Sonic Wave, and he still gets picked off.
Yeah, it makes things a little bit difficult. Jensen 3-3 and 6 though. It's not like he's having a terrible game for himself, just a couple more deaths than he would have liked to see.
This could be big.
Bjergsen caught out there. Not quite though. Dark Passage, making sure he stays safe after that ultimate bombard wears off. Smoothie and Contractz now going to be stuck here in the river. A lot of damage on the Smoothie from the Bjergsen damage output as now the culling comes out. Bjergsen going to be taken down to about half. Svenskeren having to disengage with the kick. Shockwave comes out onto Jensen, who's going to be taken very, very low. More damage coming through this time from Sneaky. DoubleLift pulled to safety with Biofrost. Hauntzer joining up with them as Cloud9 seems to have got the better of the fight for now. Svenskeren will likely be sent home as C9 starts up Baron.
This is where the double Ocean Drake as well as Nunu Warmogs comes in. They can regen up a fair bit, whereas TSM cannot.
Ooh, Ray barely sidestepping the death sentence there. Cloud9 still keeping Contractz on the Baron. He can pretty much tank it forever, just constantly consuming it. Keeping his health topped off. Ray looking to go in, able to find the Flame Spitters, able to get some damage. Zonya's Hourglass going to be keeping him safe for now. Sneaky getting himself back, but at the same time applying the damage to Biofrost, who has been dropped. TP coming in on the backside. Hauntzer looking to make the moves onto Sneaky, who flashes himself away. Staying alive for now. The bullets will not be curved into the fight. Jensen grabbing the kill onto Hauntzer. Sneaking off to the side, looking to come around and get that damage if need be. TSM, 3 men remaining, 2 of them under half HP.
Contractz laughing off the curtain call while DoubleLift is shooting it at them. They are in control here. Can they now refocus on the Baron? The control ward has not been cleared, so TSM cannot see it. They also can't find ways to get back in. There are charges on Svenskeren's Tracker's knife, so he can ward and maybe try to steal, but as you mentioned against Nunu, nearly impossible. Shockwave is up. TSM do not want to give this over.
Svenskeren thinking about going in, trying to steal this one away. Normally Lee Sin's good at that, but it's so hard to do. Bjergsen going to be brought low, almost taken down. Contractz knocked away, and Bjergsen is dead. Deadly Flourish not going to be finding its mark today. Contractz trying to get himself right back into the pit. DoubleLift taken so low. Smoothie still looking to chase these guys down. DoubleLift almost dropped, but not quite today. Biofrost the target. Ray barely missing out on the kill. There's that DFT that would have otherwise provided the damage.
Woo! This game, Captain Flowers, on a nice edge, but C9 are pulling off the balancing act, getting that Baron and sticking in there for so long, and Contractz being able to stay alive this whole time. Absolutely critical. They'll have to use this Baron to try and win the game, but watching this one more time, there is a Shockwave that Bjergsen tries to get, but Contractz flashes past it. Gets the ult onto Bjergsen, does finish him off thanks to the equalizer from Ray, and still doesn't die. It allows C9 to pick that up, plus multiple kills, but as you mentioned, Deathfire Touch could have been so critical in that last push.
The tankiness of that Nunu is now only expanded by the
red
power of Gargoyle Stoneblade.
Sneaky.
Sneaky trying to stay on top of Hauntzer there, not quite able to do it through the flag and drag. Svenskeren trying to respond with some damage onto Contractz, but it just doesn't hurt. A 3,500 health Nunu now with plenty of resistances on there too. Gargoyle Stoneplate means once he gets into the middle of these fights, he's going to be nigh impossible to kill for 4 seconds. And with Nunu, you're not concerned about when you pop it either. It's not like you have a huge damage threat that you need to apply to your opponents. You can just do that whenever you need to soak that enemy damage out.
Exactly. He's trying to be the health pool of 2 tanks in the form of 1 tank. And that's why he's gone with this build, I think, instead of something like a Locket or a Knight's Vow early on, which you often see out of Nunu's, because he is trying to soak all the damage and allow Jensen and Sneaky to do work on their own. They also have the Locket on Smoothie, which is still a decent item, but not nearly as effective as it could be on the Nunu, and it is working. You see all these fights where he is just playing with hundreds of health out of that 3.7k health pool that he has right now, and living to tell the tale, then regenning it back up with that Warmogs and double Ocean.
Double AD carry objective focus comp from Cloud9. We voiced our concerns about it during the draft, how risky it was, but it's paying off now against the meta standard draft of TSM that has found itself now 10,000 gold behind. TSM seems to be on their back foot consistently at this point. So many traps bottom lane.
Yeah, it's risky in the sense that there's not a fallback pattern. Unless they shove down the turrets and get a gold lead early, they generally don't win. But now they have the Nunu, the Baron, the traps. They want to go.
And they've got the Caitlyn with that 3-item spike. This is where things go from bad to worse for TSM. They've got to find some way to defend these, but it just gets harder and harder as multiple lanes of Baron Enchanted minions going to be pushing into the tier 3s. Contractz on the front line.
Beautiful
bait onto multiple people. Equalizer comes down. More damage coming out. DoubleLift is out of the picture. And Bjergsen's going to be chased down next. TSM retreats and loses the mid lane in him.
And C9 is in such a power spike right now. They have the option to go bottom for the inhibitor, but they're going for the Nexus.
This is going to be it, potentially. Cloud9 wants to force the issue. TSM has got to pull off the victory here if they want to keep their hopes alive. Svenskeren on the front line, Absolute Zero being channeled. Cloud9 keeping them off for now. Bjerg has to do the work. Sneaky and Jensen putting so much damage into Nexus turret number 2. Bjergsen gonna be brought down. Ladies and gentlemen, TSM will fall, and Cloud9 will be the ones to take them down.
The reverse sweep comes in from C9, and a beautiful game 3 executed by them. 3 winning lanes all across the board, breaking out the Nunu on Contractz as he laughs his way through the game and closing it out before 30 minutes.
Vengeance for the first series this split, and vengeance for the outcome of the playoff finals in Spring Split 2017. Cloud9 has shown that they are still a threat and can still contend with TSM.
Yeah, even though it's just the regular season, even though they're still waiting to play COG this week, you see what it means just to take them down here, especially in the manner in which they did. Trailing in game 2, backs against the wall, pulling out clutch team fight after clutch team fight, then showing their hand very early on in the game 3 draft, saying, we're coming at you with Caitlyn, Lucian, Rumble, and shoving you down. TSM can't find the answer, and C9 walk away victorious.
It was such an audacious draft pattern, but the fact that they had the faith in it, the fact that they knew they could execute as a team, this kind of goes to what we talk about with Reaper as a coach and as a drafter too. He said, look, we can get this done. It doesn't matter what their game plan is against it. It matters that this is our plan and we can execute with it. And Cloud9, just as a team, working so well together. You mentioned the Nunu and how he was the tank for the entire team, even though he was only one guy. And man, he did it right.
Yeah, and then also Ray, you can see right there, very happy on stage, relieved that him not taking Deathfire Touch on Rumble didn't cost him the game, but also I think a very important series for him, because so often, at least in the spring split, Impact would win, Ray would come in, Ray would lose, and they'd bring back Impact to take control of it. The opposite happened here. Impact lost game 1, and then Ray was on the winning team games 2 and 3, which I think is so good for his growth, as he hasn't been able to transfer his play from solo queue onto stage here in the LCS. And even with the bad mastery choice, he destroyed that game with equalizers. 29,500 damage, 10,000 damage more than even Sneaky or Jensen. So props to C9 for pulling off this reverse sweep.
And you threw it out in multiple team fights. The positioning of those equalizers was on point. It wasn't like he's just walking into people with a flame spitter and pressing Zonias. His ultimate targeting was exactly where it needed to be to make sure that they kept up that snowball.
Yeah, and I mean, with the team composition they picked, when you win with those compositions, you always look very good. That's the way it works. You hit your power spikes before the other team can defend, and you run down those turrets. But they were playing on a very slim margin in that game. A lot of those fights were so close. So the things that didn't work in the first few games, like team communication or missing skill shots at critical moments, they were correcting that for game 3 in a very critical moment.
And they did it. They found their win. They're now the ones who get to continue that win streak, that momentum we were talking about. And TSM are the ones who are now going to have to stop, regroup mentally, and put themselves in a spot to come back as they continue with their rough week. But for more on Cloud9 and their win, let's hear from Pastry Time, who's